Hello, my name is Brittany. Welcome to my kitchen. It's a little messy. I made some rolls and they are currently rising. I am not going to stick them in the oven. I made the mistake of making bread that I was so excited to have, and it was rising and I needed it to rise really fast, so I stuck it in the oven. The oven wasn't on or anything. It just will usually rise faster because I think it's warmer in the oven. And my husband started the oven and I forgot to warn him that my bread was in there, and yeah, it is no longer, was no longer salvageable. So that was sad. I learned my lesson. I definitely need to put like a note or something if I put bread in there. My sweet husband was like, I am so sorry, it's all my fault. And I was like, if the roles were reversed and you put bread in the oven, like dough in the oven to rise, and he was turning the oven on to make some food. If I would have done that, turned the oven on to make some food and found out he had put dough in there, I'd been like, why would you do that? It's all your fault. So nice of him to take the blame, but I was like, that's all me. I mean, who checks the oven before they start it? Like, it's not a storage space. Do you store things in the oven? Because I'm sorry if you do. But in my opinion, like, you shouldn't be storing things in there, you know? So that was on me. I definitely need like a magnet or something that's like, bread is rising, do not touch, or take it out. So today I am currently cutting up some onions and carrots for roast that I think is a little too late to make tonight, but I'll get it cut up for making it tomorrow, which will be great. While I'm working, I can just throw this in the crock pot. And I'm also going to talk about some toddler tantrums. I'm doing a little series right now talking about toddler tantrums. And this is part 2, so if you haven't watched part 1, go back and watch it. I share more about my heart around this, kind of where I'm coming from, and I share my first tip in that video. So go back to that one and then come back here. Okay, so if you haven't noticed, my tips for handling toddler tantrums are more like tips for the parent or the mom, because, well, yes, maybe you can prevent some tantrums. Toddlers are gonna toddle, right? And I think every stage is different. There's good and hard to every stage, and I am not here to say that I'm just reiterating like what I talked about in my first video. I am not here to be like, get ready for the toddler stage, it's gonna be so hard. That's not what I'm here for. First of all, every child is so different, and I do not look at life as a way of dreading things. No matter what, I'm always trying to find ways to be hopeful and joyful and look forward to things. So I am doing these videos because it has been a hard season for a while, and I just needed some help trying to find the light at the end of the tunnel with some of these hard months, weeks, days. And God has been gracious to teach me a lot of things in this season, and I've been learning things from other people, and I just wanted to share them. And a lot of them just really honestly have to do with you, with me, with the parent, because we can't control, the tantrums. But there's a lot we can do, and we can have certain mindsets and thoughts that can be incredibly helpful and just bring some more joy back. So my second one today that I want to talk about is prayer, and this is something that I think can get overlooked. And like sometimes for myself especially, I forget how powerful prayer is. Like it's crazy how we have the ability to tap into the spiritual world and talk to God just by talking and saying, hey God, thanks for listening to me. And it's wild, and it's hard for me to comprehend because we can't see it. And so there's times where I'm like, is this even working? Are you even listening to me? Is this silly? So I think that it's really easy for me to forget the importance of it. And I just have been reminded a lot about praying, the importance of praying. And I wanted to share a few things about praying specifically and things that have just encouraged me that I think might encourage you. So the first thing I wanted to share is this book shared by my lovely friend Michaela, and I'll tag one of her videos that she wrote about this book, or that she shared about this book. And it's called Fervent, and it's a women's battle plan for serious, specific, and strategic prayer. Perfect, right? So I just want to share this little part in the book. Okay, so she said, despite what we may or may not understand about prayer, God has deliberately chosen this particular vehicle as the one that drives his activity in people's lives. It's what he allows us to use to cooperate and partner with him in the fulfilling of his will. He's created prayer as a primary way of putting us into personal contact with him and his eternal realities any hour of the day or night. And I love this part right here. Prayer is the portal that brings the power of heaven down to earth. It is kryptonite to the enemy and to all his ploys against you. Oh, so good. And then, actually, I'll share the other part in a minute. Let me talk about a couple other things. So I loved reading that in the book. And then there's a couple other things that have come up for me lately that have been like really good visuals and just great ways for me to see the power of prayer. And one of them is I saw this reel on Instagram that was talking about how a person that used to follow the enemy, I'm not going to share everything correctly, but I'll have to find the reel and link it. But they were just talking about how the children were really easy. We know children are very easily influenced, right? So the enemy is definitely always looking for ways to influence them. And this reel was talking about how there's a bunch of flies in here. So if you see me swatting, it is fly season in Idaho. I don't know if you guys have a fly season, but it's like you open the door and 20 flies come in. So if you open the door, it's like get in and out as fast as you possibly can. Anyways, so this reel was talking about how this person was sharing that it was almost like the children that the parent that had people praying for them, it was almost as if they had a ring of fire around them to protect them from, spiritual warfare, to protect them. And I was like, whoa, that is crazy to think about. And so when I'm praying for Luke, a lot of times I'm thinking about that ring of fire. Like I'm thinking specifically about what I'm doing is just like putting a ring of fire around him. And when I'm praying about other things for him too, it helps me feel like it's really worth it and valuable because I just have those visuals in my brain. So that's been helpful. And then what else was I going to share? Oh, this Bible story I read. I couldn't remember where I saw this. I couldn't even remember if it was like in a book or online or in a podcast or in the Bible. And I used ChatGPT to help me think of it. And let me grab my computer. And it helped me find it. So I said, is there a story in the Bible about two people going to war or something like that, and one person has an army of angels? That's like the gist of what I remembered. So it said, yes, there's a story in the Bible about a prophet who is surrounded by an army of angels. In 2 Kings 6:15-17, the prophet Elisha and his servant are surrounded by an enemy army. The servant is afraid, but Elisha prays for God to open his eyes. When the servant's eyes are opened, he sees the hills full of horses and chariots of fire, an army of angels sent by God to protect them. Crazy, right? So we can't see it, but there's a spiritual world all around us, and it's really wild for us to even try to picture it, but I just love that story and it stuck with me. And I'm always thinking about how, can you imagine being in Elisha's place where what you can see is you maybe have this really tiny army going up against this huge army, and then God's like, no, look, and there's like angels and chariots on fire and all ready to protect you, and it's just wild. It's really amazing, and what a incredible gift that we have. And it's, I don't know, I don't think I can add anything more other than that's pretty incredible. So if you forgot how powerful prayer is, hopefully that reminds you. And going a little bit further, I have just been trying to improve my prayer life, getting better at prayers. I am not the best at praying. I feel like I'm honestly not the best at words in general. I stumble on my words a lot. I say a lot and just talking in general, I'm just a much better writer. So it's just a skill that I'm trying to get better at. I know there's lots of different ways to pray, but this is just something that I have been loving learning about and trying to get better at, and just becoming more mature in my faith. And that Fervent book has been really helpful in being more strategic about my praying. And I got this book, 31 Prayers for My Son, which I love. I have just been reading like one a day, and sometimes I'll read that same one. That's like my prayer for the day, and I'll read it a couple times sometimes. And I feel like it's giving me good like frameworks to go off of. And I think that as I get more comfortable and learn more when I'm just out and about, I'm gonna think of more specific things to pray about. And I think they've all been really helpful. So I also just wanted to share this book because I think it's important to know too that we're all in different places when it comes to our prayer life, and we don't have to, I don't want this to be used as a way to say, oh, well, I'm not good at praying, so I'm just not even gonna pray, because that's not true. I think that there's a Bible verse that talks about how even just like your moaning or frustration, like, oh, is a prayer, and God hears you. So don't forget that, and it's okay to be where you're at and also improve it and mature it and grow on those things. So with that being said, this is the other part I wanted to read in the book. So the person that wrote this book loves talking about, obviously, strategic prayer. And in it, you're maybe wondering, why strategic prayer? Let me answer that for you. So she says, strategies, yes, because as you may have noticed, the battles your enemy wages against you, especially the most acute, consistent ones, possess a personality to them, an intimate knowledge of who you are and the precise pressure points where you can most easily be taken down. Random accident? Lucky guess? I don't think so. These areas of greatest fear and anxiety in your life are clues to some important spiritual information. They reveal, among other things, that a personalized strategy has been insidiously put in place to destroy your vibrancy and render you defeated. It's been drawn up on the blackboard by someone who knows where you live and whom you love, knows your customary tendencies, and knows from long experience how best to exploit every single one of them. And maybe up until now, it's been working. So hopefully that is helpful in just reminding you the power of prayer in big and little things in your life, and as little as tantrums. Even though tantrums have not felt little to me, they have felt like a big part of my life. So just going off of the whole theme of this video, praying, starting my day with praying for Luke, praying for me, specifically praying for his and mine, these are both ways, attitudes and postures and patience and anything I can think of in the moment. And when they're happening as the day goes on, just even if I can't think of like a really good prayer, just asking God for help in that moment. And sometimes it's as simple as, Lord, I need patience, Lord, please help me, is so powerful. And the more that you're praying, and even like the more specific you are, you'll be able to see God answering those specific prayers. So it's really cool. So this is just your reminder to keep praying. It is so powerful. And maybe this is a good season for you to dig into your prayer life a little bit more and try to improve it. And don't forget, remember those visuals and the power of prayer. And look back and pay attention to the prayers that God's answering, and maybe journal and just pay attention to how you're changing over the season too, because I think you'll notice and be really proud of how you're changing, and you'll be able to be more thankful for how God's refining you and how your relationship is growing with Him and with your children, even through a hard season. All right, be on the lookout for the next video. I don't know when it'll be out, but I have another tip coming.